method that is to display city, state and country. So what are the values we assigned into those properties? Okay, so we are going to display them here, right? Then come for, yeah. So yeah, Sai, can you hear me right now? Soumya and Venkat, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, like Sai, you are having issue. Please check. Yes, now here you see. This is the class we created. This.
Hello, Chandra.
Yeah, Sai, can you hear me?
Hello. Hello, Chandra.
Yeah, hello, Sai,
Yeah, Chandra. I'm able to hear
can you
now.
hear me?
Yes. Now
Yes,
I'm
yes,
able to hear.
yes, no. So here you see, we created a method called toString method, right?
Yes.
So like with the toString method, we display the values what we assigned into city, state and country. Okay, and come for employee also. Okay, so here you see, we created one more class which is called employee, that is to represent the employee ID, employee name and employee address, right? But to represent address of any employee, okay, we are going to refer another class which is called address what we created here. Okay, fine. Now you see, in this class also we created a constructor and passed some values, you see, ID, name and address, right? So what are the values we passed here? ID, name and then address. Okay, so if we passed any values for the constructor, then assigns those given values into these properties what we created in the class. And then after we created a method called show method, you see. Okay, with the show method we display like this, you see, name and nothing but address also. Okay, so here to display the employee related details, we created a method called show method. Okay, and in the previous program, that is in address class, in the class address, we created toString method to display what are the values presented city, state and country, right? Like that we created two different classes. So what are the classes we created here? We must represent them in a XML file. Here you see. Okay, bean. So by using a tag called bean, we represented the classes what we created, right? like bean ID and class. Initially created class is nothing but address class, right? Now for that address class we given ID as A1 here. Okay, and we created a constructor in the class. Yes, to pass the values for the constructor, we taken some tags. You see, constructor argument value is equals to some city name we given initially. You see the city name we given here, right? And then state, and then country. So you see, like when container started here, then creates the instance of the specified class. So what is the class we specified? Okay, you see, what is the class name we specified, or what is the class we specified? Container instantiates that class and sets the ID as A1 for that. Okay, so after of that, what are the values we specified? Then those values passes to the constructor what we created in the address class here. Okay, is it clear right now? Then what about the next class here? Employee class. So for employee class also we specified constructor arguments. Why? Because in employee class also we created constructor. Okay, like this you see, right? We must pass the reference of the other class you see, because you see in employee class you see the constructor here. So what are the arguments? What type of arguments it is taking? One integer type, string type, and then address type. Okay, so nothing but you see reference of the address class you see, like that. Okay, so that how we specify the reference of the address class, like this you see, reference bean is equals to A1. Okay, as the constructor argument we given the reference of another bean, which bean is, yes. So here you see, okay, like that we created a XML file. But a query I am asking here, in the previous examples we created beans.xml, that is to represent the Java classes, right? But here we created another XML file which is called application context.xml. Yes, my query is, what is the main difference between beans.xml and application context.xml? Is it clear right now? Sai, Soumya and Venkat. So that is my query. So just answer that question for tomorrow session, right? The simple difference is there between beans.xml and application context.xml, right? Okay, Sai. Sai, Soumya and Venkat.
Yes, Chandra.
Okay. And we will discuss about what is the query you asked, right? Like add, click on add button, something like that, right? We will discuss them today. Now, yes. Now here you see we created one more object which is called resource object. Okay. So now you see clearly from that resource object we created one more object which is called bean factory object. Okay, here we created bean factory object. Now from bean factory object a method is given which is called get bean. So when we given the reference ID of employee class, then it returns the employee class related ID, reference. Then by using that reference we call show method presented in the employee class. You see this. So here container generates or instantiates two different classes. What are those? Employee class and then beans class, right? And then address class. Yes, very important. You see, whenever whenever address class instance is needed, then only it creates, otherwise it will not create. So for example, if we are not used address class reference in the program, so it will not create. Even though we specified here, it will not create it. So whenever it is whenever needed, then only it creates. Okay, understood? So is it clear right now?
Yes, Chandra.
That is the main concept of inversion of control. See, actually, a container needs to read this data first, then after employee class data. Okay. So, like while reading this data from this XML file, so it will not create the instance of that class. Okay, when it creates, yes, here. When we specify the reference for employee class, then only it creates. Okay, understood? Is it clear right now?
Yeah, Chandra, that means it's like when you are instantiating
Okay,
this test. Can you open this test.java once?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, that means when we are like calling s.show, it
Actually,
will
you see, for getBean method, we given a reference, right? Which class reference we given there?
address
No. Here you
get
see,
bean.
E is the ID
Okay,
given
yeah,
for
we have given
employee class.
employee, yeah, employee ID.
So that
Yeah,
initially it
bean ID
creates
of
or
employee.
it instantiates employee
Yeah,
class. Then
yes,
after
yes.
it will create it, right?
Yeah, that's what. When we call s.show, in s.show we have address dot toString. So after
Yes,
encountering address dot toString, only then it will create an instance for address, right?
yes. Whenever we called show method, that is taken from employee class. You see.
Yeah, if we don't have address dot over here, it will not create, right? That's what you are saying, right? For the inversion
Yes,
control.
yes, yes.
Yeah, just wanted to clarify that. Listen, okay.
Now you see, I'm executing that. Now you see what is the output we will get here. like this you see, right? ID, name, and then address also. Is it clear right now?
Yes, Chandra.
Yeah, fine. Like this. Fine. And this technique is also known as constructor injection. That is simply you can say dependency injection.
Okay.
And with the setter methods also we can do that. You see how it is. You see, we created employee class, right? Okay, here we created employee class. In this class, we created properties to represent employee details like ID, name, and then followed by city, right? And then after, like previous programs, here also we created setters and getters, right? And display method also created here to show what is the output. So here output is nothing but what are the values presented in ID, name, and city, right? Then, so when we created any Java class here, we must represent about a Java class specific container with application content.xml. You see that. So somewhat different here. You see representation is different from previous. Property name and then value. That means what is the value we want to insert into a property called ID. Okay, that value is given here. Okay, in the same name, in the same way, property name is given as name here and value is given like this. And then city. Okay, so which city we need to insert? Okay, that city name is given here, right? Is it clear right now? Now come for this. Yes. So very important you see. So what is the property name we given here? That property related setter method executes. That means set ID. Okay. So while executing set ID method passes this value. What is the value we specified here? Passes that value as an argument for set ID method. And in the same way remaining also. Set name method executes. While executing that method, this value passes. And in the same way like this you see. Set city. This value passes for set city method, right? Is it clear right now? This is called setter injection. So here the procedure is same. So we are not changing any procedure like that is exactly like previous program we written this. Okay. So understand all of you right now? And any queries?
What's up?
Now here you see. So what is the content we specified there displayed as output you see. So understand all of you right now? is called set rejection. Previous one is constructor rejection. That means with constructor we injected the values into the specified properties, so that we call that as construct rejection, and whereas this is set rejection. So understood all of you right now? Sai, Venkat and Soumya? Please ask me right. Yeah, hello? Can you hear me right now? Yeah, so any queries from here? Like constructor and set rejection, this is one of the interview question from Spring Framework. What about set rejection and then construct rejection? Yeah, fine. Now, come for most important concept, MVC design pattern. So, different design patterns given in Java language to make flexibility for the developer. Okay, like MVC design pattern. So, what is what is the advantage we will get MVC design pattern? Let me show it. So, I am going to show the diagram you see. Imagine this is a bank premises I am showing. If security is standard here, okay, and I am showing some other divisions you see. Cache counter division, and then okay, and one more division I am showing. Lone division like this. So, for example, if a user, take this as a user here, or customer entered into the bank. Okay. So if whenever the customer entered into the bank, then immediately security checks whether the customer is valid customer, true customer or not, like that. Okay. If he find it that customer as a valid or true customer, then only allows into the bank, right? Once the customer logged into the or entered into the bank premises, then depends upon the requirement, he needs to visit the related counters. For example, if he needs or if he wants to deposit some amount into his account, then like this, he enters into cash counter. Otherwise, if he wants to discuss something about like some deposits or withdrawals or something like that, then the customer visits the branch manager related division, right? Like that. Otherwise, any loan is needed for that, then visits this loan related division. That is depends upon the requirement he is doing. In the same way, I am showing one more thing. You see, equivalent application, exactly like that. Imagine this is a server. And this is a controller like security, that is to check the requests, whether the given requests or whether the requests made by any user is valid or not. This is the controller. And then this is model, which is going to hold some data for the user. So what is the data needed for the user, that the data holds by this model? Another element presents in the server, which is called model. And in the same way, this is called view. Okay, so here you see, whenever any user you see that. So when any user made a request, imagine this is a request. Okay, when any user made a request to the server, initially controller accepts the request and then checks whether that request is valid request or not. If it is valid request, then only it passes that request to the related element present in the server. Okay. So for example, if any data needed for the user, then it forwards that request to the model to get what is the data needed for the user, and then returns that data to view, that is to format. That means to format means in which format or in which style that the data is needed as a resultant values. Okay, forwards the data to or returns the data to view. Then view formats the data and then returns that to user. Then what is the concept you capture here? You see different elements are working in the server to perform different types of operations, right? That means here operations are completely divided for different elements you see clearly. So understood the point here? Is it clear right now? Sai,
Yes, sir.
Soumya and Venkat. This is one of the design pattern. So what is the advantage we will get with this design pattern here? Yes, roles are clearly separated. Okay, even like any modification needed. Okay, so like model developer need not interact with the controller developer. With his own, he can make it. Okay, so that maintenance is very easy here. That is the main advantage with this design pattern, which is called MVC design pattern, model view controller design pattern. So we have to use this design patterns like especially from web applications, right? This is very important concept. Okay, but a Spring framework is given a predefined controller, okay, so that we need not implement it. That is the main advantage of frameworks. So some stuff is given by the frameworks. We did not create it. Okay, let me show that. Understood the point here? What I told you? Sai, Soumya and Venkat?
Yes, sir.
Now, here you see. So I am going to show example which is related to MVC. Now, here you see this is the controller given by Spring Framework, which is called dispatcher servlet. This is the controller. This is the predefined controller given from Spring Framework. Okay, is it clear right now? Okay, is it clear right now? So we need not create any controller here. So what I shown in the diagram. So this controller is already given by Spring Framework. Okay, so we need not implement the controller part. Okay, just we need to configure it. We need to configure like this in the web.xml. So this is dispatcher servlet. Okay, this is dispatcher servlet. So whenever this is Spring point of view, but another framework point of view, another controller is given. So here controller varies from framework to framework, but concept is same. Okay, so here you see when a request came from any user, dispatcher servlet accepts that request, and then to process that request, it needs to find the suitable action or suitable handler. So to find out the suitable handler, it reads the data from a Spring configuration file which is called dispatcher-servlet.xml. Let me write. Okay, this is one more XML file. Okay, so here is the dispatcher-servlet.xml. Now, in dispatcher-servlet.xml file, okay, so you see clearly a handler class is given. This is called handler class, which is going to handle the requests. Okay, so what is the name of the, or what is the class to handle the request here? Hello world controller. Hello world controller. This is a Java class. Okay, fine. Now you see. So whenever request came from the user, yes, here dispatcher servlet accepts the request to check and to validate whether the request is a valid request or not. If it is finded that is a valid request, then it looks up. You see, this controller looks up into the configuration file which is called dispatcher-servlet.xml to find the suitable handler class that is to process the request. Okay, when it is finded the suitable handler class, then forwards the request to a method which is called handle request internal. Okay, is it clear right now? Sai, Soumya and Venkat, is it clear what I told you here?
Sir, can you
Hello?
repeat that?
Can you hear me right now? Yes.
Sir, yeah.
That
Sir,
is
can you repeat?
the request flow you want?
Yeah, yeah. In the program,
See,
what you have explained.
yes, here you see a XML file is there, right? Which is called
Yes,
dispatcher-servlet.xml.
yes, sir.
Okay, this XML file represents the suitable handler class to process the request.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so here controller. So what is controller here? Dispatcher servlet. So
Okay.
the dispatcher servlet accepts the request came from the user, right?
Okay.
So after request came from the user, this controller accepts the request and then finds the suitable handler class to process. That is by looking up into a Spring configuration file which is called dispatcher-servlet.xml, right?
Yeah.
So, like as you see, what is the class name we given here? Hello world controller. This is a suitable class to process that request. So that forwards the request to this class which is called Hello world controller. Okay, is it clear? Sai?
Yeah, yeah, Chandra.
So then this handler class generates one more object which is called model and view object, right? It generates model and view object. Here you see model and view object generates and then in includes some data with that or in that object. So what data represents there? Yes, model object, view object. Okay, model object and view object. Or simply you can say reference of the model and reference of the view. So why this handler class created model object reference and view object reference? Yes, whenever data is needed or from which model object data needed for the user, okay, so that data gets from that model and then forwards that data to this view to format. Okay, is it clear right now?
Okay. Like,
So that once
where are this
data
model?
formatted by view, sorry,
Yeah, okay, okay. Go on. I'll ask.
so once data formatted by view, okay, then returns that data to related user. But here you see, like once the controller finded the suitable model class, it collects, the controller collects the data from that model by the controller and then forwards the reference of the view for one more predefined class called internal, internal resource view resolver. This is one of the predefined class given in Spring Framework to find out the suitable view. Here controller is not doing it. Okay, what controller is doing here? It is passing the reference of the view for this class, for this object which is called internal resource view resolver. So that it finds a suitable view and forwards that data collected from model, that is to format, and then once data is formatted by view, returns that to user. Is it clear right now?
But can you show that in the code, Chandra, how it is returning?
See, is model and view object returned to or returns to controller. Then internally, actually we don't know how the controller is implemented. Then that controller collects the reference of model and then view. Okay,
Okay, can you show what is like what we have in this model and view objects like in the welcome page and welcome message?
yeah,
These are
see,
objects, right? That's
welcome message, see, welcome page is the reference of the JSP, you see, this is a view. Now, this view is going to generate a response, that is to return for the user. Okay, this is the value, not value, it is a variable. Okay, so this variable associated with model. Okay, is it clear right now?
okay, Chandra. I'm getting it.
Yeah. So like that creates model and view object which include includes the references of view and model objects. Okay, is it clear right now?
Okay, welcome page is view and welcome message is model object.
Yes, references. And here, like exactly where data is stored here, this variable. This is a variable what we given here. That means this class is acting like a model class. Okay, understood.
Okay, Chandra.
Finally, we will get the output. So what is the data we given here? You see, this is. So if we execute it, then we will get some awareness. Let me show the execution here. So I need to start. So I need to restart Eclipse here. Just 1 minute. Yeah, I think issue is there. Why is it getting wrong? So I need to reinstall this. Okay, so can I show this execution tomorrow?
Yes, Chandra.
Some issues are getting, so that I will show the execution tomorrow. Okay. So if any queries, please ask me right now.
Yeah, Chandra. Will you able to even show for how this for login page creation? When we just create a login page, after
Okay.
that, how will the profile change for each user after logging in? Like how the data is displayed for the next for every user we log in, the data changes, right?
Yes.
So how actually the data is